That better? Is that working? Is that now working? I've actually turned my microphone on. Hopefully. We'll have to start that all again, won't we? Is the audio working now? No sound at all. It's coming through on my end. Yes. Yes, it's working now. Getting a delay on the chat, that's brilliant. Turn it up a little bit as well. Brilliant, okay. Cheers guys, thank you very much for letting me know that. So I guess we'll start again. Should we just start this all again? Should we just like go back to the beginning and start again? I think that's probably a good idea. What a great start. Professional, as always, on the Max Goodwin YouTube channel. Welcome back to another live stream. Today we are talking about deadline day. Obviously it's deadline day for the Premier League teams, including Nottingham Forest. We're going to be talking about deadline day deals. It looks like we have potentially got Jonjo, Shelvey and Felipe Monteiro from Atletico Madrid coming through the door in the next couple of hours. There's rumours surrounding a few other players. I saw Mary Demiral was linked, which is a pretty interesting potential signing. And yeah, that's basically what we're going to be doing in the stream. Again, apologies for the lack of sound in the opening few minutes of this live stream. As you can see on the left-hand side, we've got a timer. We've got about 7 hours left until deadline day here in the UK, I think. Or maybe I'm wrong now. I think I've got the time wrong. This is just going fantastically. Ends at 11. How many hours is 11? That's 9 hours. So that should be another 90 minutes or so. You know what? I'm just gonna turn that off. That timer's wrong. Anyway, yeah. So we're talking about deadline day. We're talking about Forest. We're talking about all the good things going on. I have not live streamed in about 3 or 4 months. So as you can tell, a little bit out of the swing. Was very quickly throwing this together because I was wanting to get something out this afternoon in terms of a live stream. So let's take a look and see if anything has updated, if there's anything new coming this way. Looks like, I'm just going to switch you over to the, to this one, I think. And just update this. There we go, that's gone very big. Okay, so as you can see, Callum Castell on Twitter, he's usually the guy on the ball for Forest News at the moment. As you can see, looks like Jonjo Shelvey's on his way down for his medical, which is very exciting news. If you are a fan of his, if you're a fan of him potentially joining the club, can't say I am massively into the signing. I'm not going to lie. We'll take a look at his stats in a little bit more detail. I'm very mixed on some of these signings. I'm not going to lie. Felipe, obviously you're getting that experience. You're getting that little bit of extra solidity at the back, especially with the injuries. We've had a lot of injuries in the last few weeks, unfortunately. And obviously very much the same with Jonjo Shelvey in terms of adding some more depth in the midfield, some Premier League experience. I think that's the argument most people are making in terms of him joining the club, and the argument for him doing that. So we're going to take a look at FBref, great page for taking a look at stats, taking a look at data. And we're going to be taking a look at Felipe, and we're going to be taking a look at Jonjo Shelvey, talking about their data in a little bit more detail, what things are popping, what we sort of want to be looking at, and essentially talking about the things that they will add to this team, the little bit more quality they may add. So we're going to start off by talking about Shelvey. Just going to switch it over to this one. So as you can see, we've got Jonjo Shelvey up. This is his FBref page. 3 appearances this season for Newcastle in the Premier League, just 37 minutes played. Earning 70k a week, which is alarming. That is a lot of money for someone who will not probably be playing very much, I would imagine. And that's his data. That's sort of his key data over the last, what we'd say, in 365 days. He's played just over 1,000 minutes in the last year or so for Newcastle. And I mean, there is some useful stuff there. We'll open it into a more complete scout report so we can actually look at all his stats in a little bit more detail. Shots, obviously, he's a good set piece taker. I think that's his big thing for Newcastle. He's great from set piece, great on a dead ball. This is compared against midfielders in Europe, by the way. Passing, always been a good passer. The thing with Jonjo Shelvey is you don't get too much, but what you do get is an elite passer, or someone who has historically been an elite passer. Really good at getting the ball forward, really good at sort of dictating tempo. When he was playing for England in the Roy Hodgson era, he was being used basically as the tempo setter for England. The guy sitting at the base of midfield, ticking things along. And whilst I don't think he could do that for Forest because he hasn't got the legs for it, and we need someone who's got that mobility in there, you can imagine he's going to be sitting there doing the passing, get the ball forwards, get the ball into the final third, all that kind of stuff. And then obviously a bit more detail on sort of pass types. Obviously set pieces is good as well. Like I said earlier, he's a good set piece taker, which is obviously very, very useful. And there's not really too much else, to be honest. He's a decent ball carrier, but not an elite ball carrier. He doesn't do too much defensive work, but he does a little bit of defensive work. What you're getting, I think, is very much someone with some clear strengths, passing, set pieces, and someone who's got some, maybe not deficiencies, but you can see they're not the strongest parts of his game. His defensive work, maybe his work off the ball, that kind of stuff. But I think, if it's not too long of a contract, his contract expires in the summer. That's probably why we've gone in from Felipe as well. His contract expires in the summer. If it's maybe a 18-month deal, maybe even until the end of the season, just someone to tie us over until the end of the season, maybe until the season after that, I don't think it's too bad. There's better options out there, of course. There's more ambitious signings. I think that's maybe the thing that a lot of people are upset about, less about the player, because he's not a bad player. Shelvey's, he's got his strengths, he's got his weaknesses, just like most players at this level. But I think it's the ambition. I think a lot of people are wanting to see somebody a little bit more exciting, potentially, coming through the door. And I think Felipe is very much the same in that sense. They're not the most glamorous signings in the world, but of course we'll add a little bit more quality and depth in that position. What do you guys think, though? Leave a comment in the stream. Be very interested to hear what you guys have got to say, other than that the sound isn't working. I'd love to know what you guys think, because I think the consensus on Twitter is that a lot of people approve of Felipe and Shelvey in the sense of adding that depth in that position and centre-back in midfield, but they're not necessarily the most glamorous of signings. But, of course, like I say, let me know what you think. And we'll move on to Felipe. As you can see as well, not made too many appearances for Atletico Madrid last season. Last night is what I'm trying to say, getting caught in two minds there. I did a scout report on Felipe. We talked a bit about his numbers in a little bit more depth, what we can expect from him, his history as a player, what sort of player he is in terms of a centre-back. But these are sort of his surface line stats. Obviously 3 appearances this season in the league, 194 minutes, 1 appearance in the Champions League, played 490 by the looks of things. And those are his numbers, and they're not awful. They're not, they're not terrible. This is over the last 365 days, but they're definitely on the way down. If you look at him from 2 seasons ago when Atletico Madrid won the league title, his blocks, his clearances, all that kind of stuff have sort of dropped down a little bit. And this season especially, his numbers are not very good for Atletico Madrid, especially considering how defensively solid they have been historically. Their defenders aren't doing too well at the moment, and I think, again, it's not the most ambitious signing in the world. If we look at the players that we were linked to in that position over the course of last summer and obviously this January window, we were linked to Mario Hermoso, who was obviously at Atletico Madrid with Felipe. We were linked with Jonathan Tah earlier in the window, whether that's obviously that reasonable of the deal. I've heard people saying it's not necessarily the most credible of sources. That Esteve guy, he's over here in terms of players that he's compared about. I think we were linked to him earlier in the window as well from Montpellier. So there's clearly been options that we've been looking at, and there's clearly been players that we've been looking at. But at the end of the day, there's not been a huge amount of movement in terms of getting deals done. And I think that we've left it maybe a little bit late in terms of getting somebody a bit more exciting through the door, and maybe someone who could be a bit more of a long-term solution to our centre-back problems. Obviously, Kaita's got to come back. I think he's back in training at the moment, or is on his way back into training. You've got Bolly, who again coming back from an injury, coming back into training. Joe Worrell, not been in great form. He's been all right. He's been probably our most consistent defender, just considering he's played probably the most. McKenna, I feel bad for McKenna, man, because I thought he was so good last season. I thought he was fantastic, one of our best players, and he just hasn't made that jump up. And I'm really surprised because he was fantastic for us last season. Maybe he suits the back three more. Maybe he's, you get that little bit more cover from a couple of extra centre backs. You get the best out of him. But it's just surprising to see how much he's dropped off this season, because I thought he was fantastic last season. He was one of the best aerially and one of the best on the ground in terms of defenders in the Championship last season. So it's unfortunate, but it is what it is. So another thing I kind of want to talk about, and I'm just going to switch back over onto the main camera, is the goalkeeping situation. Because obviously we have an injury to Dean Henderson at the moment. We're currently playing Wayne Hennessy as our number one, which is not ideal. Not ideal, I would say. Hennessy isn't the strongest keeper in the world. Hasn't played too much over the last 4 or 5 seasons. And as you will see very quickly now, there isn't much traction happening in the deal for Navas. Keylor Navas, as you'll see in the title, was the guy who was, for most of the window, looked like the guy who we were going for. I did a video on him last week, I think. And now Sky and Rob Dorset from Sky, obviously you can see Jamie there's, retweeted that. It seems like the deal's off, or at least for now it looks unlikely. I think he turned up to training this morning, which is never a good sign because it shows that there's no traction in him coming over for a medical or looking to sign any contracts. And that leaves us in a bit of an awkward position, because I think we put all our eggs in the basket of bringing in the PSG goalkeeper, Keylor Navas. There have been a couple of potential other keepers that we're looking at. See if we can find any tweets relating to that in terms of their names that have been linked. Jordan Smith as well potentially could be leaving. Huddersfield are interested. To be fair, if they fancy sending Lee Nichols our way, be very happy to see that. He's been fantastic for Huddersfield over the last couple of seasons. Probably one of the best goalkeepers in the Championship last season for Huddersfield. Probably alongside Samba. I think they were the 2 best keepers in the league that season. So there's a new goalkeeping target. HICC reporting that we are looking at a potential £17 million deal for Emil Aldero. I'm going to go Emil Aldero, who plays for Sampdoria in Serie A. He seems to be the potential next target along the line. Sergio Rico as well has been linked to the club over the last sort of 48 hours since it sort of came out that the potentially Navas deal wasn't going to be happening. So we will take a little quick look into the stats of how do you even spell that? Aldero, there we go. Emil Aldero. We're going to be checking out his stats in a little bit more detail. So he is an Italian. He's played 20 games in Serie A this season, conceding 34 goals in the process. His post-shot expected goals is 27.5. That's not good by the looks of things. That's really not very good. Okay. And his save percentage is around 70%, which would put him probably upper to mid in the Premier League at the moment. I think 70%, 72% I think is about average in the Premier League this season. So 70% is not bad. It's not awful. It's pretty decent, but God, it's okay. I mean, good penalty record. That's a positive. Good ratio of saving penalties. Looks like he likes to get the ball into feet quite a lot. I don't think that's necessarily as important to the way in which we have played this season. We've been very direct in terms of our kicking. We've been very direct in terms of getting from back to front very quickly. It's not necessarily a case of sustaining possession and using the goalkeeper and build up. It's not really the way we're playing at the moment. But the big ones for me that make me maybe not as keen on the deal, or potentially looking at this as a risk maybe, is these stats up here, these key stats. So obviously save percentage puts him close to the middle of the pack for goalkeepers. If you take a look at this shows that obviously the highest in Europe is Brice Samba. The highest save percentage in Europe apparently is Brice Samba. Well, there you go. Average is around 70%, like I say. He's just slightly underneath that. And obviously the lowest is sort of that 56% save percentage sort of area. But that's incredible. Brice Samba having the season of his career after the great few years with Nottingham Forest. So yeah, his post-shot expected goals isn't great. Basically, post-shot expected goals is the difference between expected goals against and goals against, essentially. So if we're looking down here, according to post-shot expected goals, they should have conceded 27.5 goals, obviously 28-27, in that sort of ballpark. And Sampdoria have conceded 34 goals this season, which means there's quite a significant difference between what he's actually preventing as a goalkeeper. There's not a huge amount of value in the saves that he's making. He's not adding quality to that back line. He's not adding a difference. You look at players who historically overperform their post-shot expected goals. Alisson Becker's a really, really good example of that. He's someone who, instead of being at minus 4.5, is consistently at +3, +4 in terms of post-shot expected goals. He is someone who historically overperforms expected goals because he is an elite shot stopper. David De Gea, a really good example. Obviously not this season, but historically has always been a really good shot stopper. In terms of the targets we've been looking at, Livakovic and Keylor Navas as well are also goalkeepers who historically have overperformed their expected goals, i.e. they have conceded less goals than expected goals would suggest, which obviously is down to the position of the shot, the quality of the shot, the body part of the shot, depending on the footedness of the player and how good that player is in the air and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of variables that make up what makes the expected goals metric. And unfortunately, our man Aldero here doesn't have the best record in terms of his shot stopping. As you can see, historically as well, has underperformed. And I don't necessarily think that's a good thing. I would be looking at a keeper who is a solid shot stopper. They don't need to be that good with their feet because we don't play out from the back that much. Or when we do, it's usually going long up to a forward to try and hold up play. I don't see us playing out from the back too much. Another player we have been linked to in goal, though, is Sergio Rico. You might know him. He spent a year at Fulham, I think, about 2 or 3 seasons ago, and they were last in the Premier League. This is the guy, Sergio Rico. I'm going to get Aldero back up as well, just so we can compare and contrast. So here we go, quickly over here. So yeah, Sergio Rico obviously has played 2 League One appearances this season, 4 goals conceded, 60% save percentage, although has played 3 games in the Champions League apparently, and has a 100% save percentage, so there you go. But as you can see, this is the data for Sergio Rico, again, over the last 365 days or so. And if we're taking a look at this in a little bit more detail, we're looking at the general trends. He's averaged a save percentage over his career since 2014 of around 69%. If we take a look at Aldero and look at his historical save percentage, it's around 70.3. So they are both have historically batted about average in terms of the save percentages that they have, which could be worse, could be better. You know, there's definitely better candidates out there. Livakovic is someone who regularly performs above average. Keylor Navas the same, but obviously they're clearly not available to us. And then we look at his post-shot expected goals. Again, we're taking a look at what his performance is as the keeper, the value of the saves that he's making. And it's certainly not as drastically bad as it is for Aldero over there in Italy. The big one here is this red column here. He has actually overperformed his post-shot expected goals at times in his career, notably in the 2021 season for PSG. Only made 9 appearances that season, but did overperform his expected goals, conceded 9 goals from 10.2 expected. He was performing above that level, but still not great. Still not great. If we take a look here, you know, -8, -1, -3.9, -4.5. Sergio Rico -4.7. That one season he had with Fulham, -3.4 post-shot expected goals per 90. He was at -0.12 per 90 minutes, which you want to be at about 0 or above for, you know, a good goalkeeper, in my opinion. I mean, I feel like that's a pretty obvious statement to be making. I suppose the argument that you can make, though, Aldero's only 25, Sergio Rico's 27. Obviously, Keylor Navas is 36 years old. He's very much at the twilight of his career, and if he doesn't come in, and if he does come in, and doesn't do too well, you're then stuck with a 36-year-old goalkeeper who's only really going to be going out to either the Middle East or maybe Brazil, depending on who can afford to pay his wages. So it's not ideal, not ideal. Nick saying that Felipe is at Park Hospital for final tests and scans. That's fantastic to hear. I think I saw a video on Twitter of him actually leaving from his medical, if I'm not mistaken. Not sure if that's true or not. We'll take a quick refresh on Twitter and have a look. Nothing new yet. Nothing coming through in terms of anything being confirmed, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Get the nffc tag up. Yeah, nothing being confirmed yet, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, not necessarily that awful. Wow, 17 of you, and fantastic. Thank you for everyone, by the way, who's joining today. I do really appreciate you coming and stopping by. I don't live stream very often, hence why we had a bit of a hectic start to the stream this afternoon. But I do appreciate you coming by. I do really appreciate you stopping by. If you can, drop a like on this live stream if you are enjoying it so far. You might not be. I wouldn't blame you. But if you are enjoying it, I'd really appreciate you dropping a like. It'd be really appreciated. And yeah, hopefully we can do some more live streams in the future. I've not been live streaming too much over the last few months because there's not been too much live stream. It's just been game after game, and obviously with time restraints and things like that, doing my actual real life job. There's not been the time there to do the live streams. We did a few over the summer, especially when we went through that blitz where we felt like we were signing somebody every day. We were live streaming quite regularly. But if you guys do want to see some more live streams, obviously please drop a like on this one, and it'll let me know that you want to see some more in the future. And yeah, I think that pretty much covers our goalkeeping situation thus far. I think it pretty much covers the players that we have been linked to most heavily over the course of the last 72 to 96 hours or so. Obviously Sergio Rico, Odero, Keylor Navas, Dominic Livakovic also was linked. Carl Darlow was linked at one point with coming back. I thought that was awful. I can't believe at one point we were potentially considering Carl Darlow as an option for goalkeeper. I don't know what you think, but maybe as a number 2. He's played 50 games in the league since joining Newcastle, in the Premier League at least. I know he was their number 1 when they came down to the Championship, because I feel like he played against us when they came to the City Ground, because that's just one of the games you remember, because they went down to 9 men. Shelvey got sent off. We missed 2 penalties. That was a weird game, that one. Just for some reason that one sticks in my mind and I can't remember why. But yeah, I don't know why Darlow was linked to us. I don't know why we were looking at him. Getting the band back together, maybe getting Lascelles down there as well. Who knows? Sky Sports Rob Dorset showed a picture of him leaving the training ground. That is probably what I saw, I think. There's the video of him. That is Felipe, the one with the obviously, I don't know if this is going to get this taken down. Hopefully not. Maybe I'll just do that just in case. For your Football Daily, don't take me down, guys. That is the video of him obviously arriving for deadline day. Obviously talking about good old attendance FC over there. There's Jonjo Shelvey arriving for his medical earlier. That was a few hours ago. And yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. Hopefully they pass. I don't want a case of us having any players failing on deadline day and then having to somehow get some deals over the line. Yeah, Jordan Smith linked with Huddersfield. We mentioned that earlier, Nick. It's potentially an interesting deal. Gives them the opportunity maybe to play. I was joking in saying that maybe they would like to send Lee Nichols the other way because I think he's a bloody brilliant keeper. I think he was fantastic for Huddersfield last season. He was, if you look at his save percentage and things like that in the data, him and Samba were the 2 standout goalkeepers in the Championship last season. And although I haven't seen too much of... What is that? Is that... There's something on my screen. I don't know if it was on your screen or not. Anyway, yeah, Lee Nichols was the guy in the Championship alongside Samba last season. And I thought he was worth a punt in the summer, actually. But obviously went for Dean Henderson, obviously someone with actual Premier League experience. I've got no issue with that whatsoever. So by no means was it a miss. But maybe if we were looking for a number 2, if he'd be willing to come and play second fiddle to Hendo for the rest of the season when he comes back from injury, potentially. Nothing really interesting. Actually, I do want to talk about one thing because I saw it coming through sort of in dribs and drabs. So So this is a story of multiple parts. Firstly, Harry Toffolo looked like he was off to Anderlecht, I believe, in the Belgian league. And it looked like the deal was pretty much done. It had been reported for the last few days. I think it even had the Fabrizio Romano seal of approval over the course of the last 24 hours. It goes out with a season end. When did that happen? Oh, poor bloody hell. That's a big blow to Huddersfield, because he was the one guy for them this season who was actually playing at a decent standard. They're in trouble. They are in big trouble with Nichols out for the rest. I can see why they're going in for someone like Jordan Smith then. That's huge. Wow. Is that true? Wow, I did not. Sorry, I'm gonna have to look at this now. How do you even spell his name? Lee Nichols. Lee Nichols suffered a season-ending shoulder injury, but the deal could depend on Forest getting a new keeper themselves. Bloody hell, that's massive, that. Huddersfield are really struggling this year. They could go down because of that, genuinely. He's been one of their best players this season from the few times I've dipped into the Championship and taken a look at stats and stuff like that. Wow. That's huge. That is massive for them. Anyway, Harry Toffolo is off to Anderlecht. In fact, I will get the specific verbiage of the tweet up. Excuse me. So, let's see if we can find this. Switch this over 1 second. So, Sky Sports reporting about a day ago, and they were saying that Nottingham Forest defender Harry Toffolo set to join Belgian side Anderlecht on loan. And that was 22 hours ago. And this is very quickly sped up. As you can see, Jamie retweeting what Paul Taylor from The Athletic is saying. Despite prior reports, Harry Toffolo's move to Anderlecht is not off, although at one stage it looked like it was off. There was rumours and counter-arguments saying that he was going to stay because of an injury to Renan Lodi. And apparently, there is no injury to Renan Lodi. So, I don't know what is going on. I think it's one of them weird deadline day moves where it's like you don't really know what's going on and there's all sorts of stuff being said. But as you can see, according to The Athletic and Paul Taylor, situation is due to Omar Richards' injury and he isn't fit to be able to be the backup to Renan Lodi for the remainder of the season, and it was originally speculated that it was because of a knock to Lodi. I mean, I'm just glad Lodi isn't injured. He's been like one of our best players this season. He's been fantastic. I've been so impressed by him. After what was quite a shaky start, I thought against Leicester, he didn't look too great in the first Leicester match. Although he looked a bit ropey. But I actually think he's been pretty bloody good for us since Christmas, really. I mean, he's got that left-back slot pretty much on lockdown. Played just under 1,000 minutes for us so far this season. Obviously, his loan expires at the end of the season with the option to buy. That's his minutes for last season and this season, 365 days, so since January last season. There's some really good numbers in there. Really good ball carrier, good at getting the ball forward. Really solid defensive numbers all around the board. And that's been the big thing I've noticed about him. I thought he was really good against Bournemouth. I think Ouattara looked dangerous at times for Bournemouth. He was a really good pickup for them. But we kept him fairly quiet, and Lodi was a big part of that. I thought he was fantastic against Bournemouth. As you can see, his defensive numbers fantastic. Good at getting forwards as well. It'd be nice to maybe see him contributing a little bit more in terms of our attacking play. Obviously, you got that goal in the League Cup against Tottenham. Really good finish, actually. That was a brilliant finish. Yeah, I think he's been fantastic. And I think if we stay up, I think there's an option to buy at the end of the deal. I don't know what the actual, finances behind that deal would be. But, yeah. Lodi was seen in the Felipe footage and Richards was seen in the Danilo arrival video in the gym. Yeah, I mean, it's like we're getting the band back together with Atletico Madrid, aren't we? We've got Lodi originally, got Felipe coming in, we've got Scarpa and Danilo, their fellow Brazilians. We were looking at Brenner from Cincinnati. I am annoyed by that, by the way. I just finished recording a scout report on Brenner. Cincinnati, I'd spent about 3 hours doing. I've done loads of research in the evening. Just finished recording it that night. And then the tweet comes out saying, "Oh, Forest, the deal's complicated. It's not happening." I tell you what, I was so annoyed because I'd spent so long researching it. I'd recorded it. I'd got some tactics board stuff done. It was basically just needing clipping together and a bit of graphics on it, as usual. And it looks like the deal's not happening now. It's sat on the cutting room floor in the editor's room, waiting to come out. And the deal looks like it's not happening anymore. And I am gutted because I thought he looked like a really promising player, Brenner. From FC Cincinnati. Oh my God. It's this guy here. Brenner Sousa da Silva. 18 goals, 6 assists in the MLS last season. Still got 2.5 years, 2 years left on his contract. And I mean, look at that. His numbers are fantastic. Obviously, it's not being compared against players from the top 5 European leagues. It's being compared against the likes of the Portuguese League, Eredivisie, MLS, Mexican League, Brazilian League, those sorts of second, championship as well, like the second tier of leagues. But those numbers are really good, and I thought he was really worth a punt. And MLS at the moment's producing some really exciting talent, and I'm just really annoyed that we're not going in for him. I'm really, really annoyed. It's it's really, really upsetting. I'm going to see if we can see a bit more detail on that Brenner deal and why it may be collapsed. Oh look, here's my tweet where I was like going all over, oh, he's going to be great. Look how good he is. Obviously, it's not happening anymore. Yes, obviously, FFTV saying that it was a breakdown in talks. Now we're looking at Andre. Oh, but it's all right, guys. We're looking at Andre Ayew, which, a guy who hasn't played in Europe for like 4 seasons, and he was last playing in the Championship with Swansea, and he's got 2 years out in Qatar. But you know what? It's okay because, God, Andre Ayew, just running back that 2016 Premier League vibes. Got Jonjo Shelvey coming in as well. Love it. Love to see it. Reason we're getting Felipe is he's fallen out of favour with Simeone like Lottie had. Yeah, Felipe's only made 3 appearances in the league this season. 29 league appearances since winning the title. The drop-off from Felipe, right? He was the most used centre-back for Atletico Madrid the year they won the title. Made 31 league appearances, the most he's ever made in a European league, in the league. And he's made 29 league appearances in 18 months since. He's barely been used. Like, how does that happen? How does someone go from being one of the most used defenders at a club, the most useful defender? He was 4th for interceptions, 5th for blocks, 1st for clearances in that Atletico Madrid side the year they won the title, to someone who can barely get a minute. He's played like 200 minutes for this Atletico Madrid side, who aren't even doing that well. They're so bad. They're like 4th or 5th in the league. They're not even doing that well. Like, how has that happened? That's incredible. It blows my mind. Like, he's clearly a talented player, but that is just, I can't believe that. It's mental. Insane. But yeah, it's looking like the Brenner deal isn't happening. It looks like the Angelo deal from is he from Santos in the Brazilian league? Looks like that's not happening, or at least it might be one that we look at maybe in the summer. So it's upsetting. It's upsetting. I was hoping to see some more young, talented Brazilians come through the door. I think we've looked quite interesting at the ones we've got, and I think Danilo's been pretty good so far. I think Scarpa's been pretty good as well. Scarpa's looked like, especially now that Gibbs White's injured, it's looking like Scarpa's going to be the guy who's going to have to start creating chances for us, because we have been so reliant on Gibbs White so far. In fact, I'd even be maybe looking at getting another. Well, we got Lingard actually. Never mind. Lingard can play 10. But yeah, Lingard and Scarpa are really going to have to step up in the next couple of months, depending on how long this injury for Gibbs White is, because obviously, he's been the guy. He's been the guy who's pulled us out a lot of ditches against United. And that's the worst I've seen Casemiro. The worst I've seen Casemiro play for United so far. I thought he was really struggling against. Worst. He wasn't bad. Obviously, he's been fantastic though the entire time, and I'm genuinely shocked that he's injured, and I'm disappointed. Where is Brandon Aguilera? I thought he was in back in January. He has gone to Estoril in Portugal. I'm going to try and spell his name right first time. Hopefully it's not going to show me anything to do with Christina Aguilera. He has gone, let me show you. as you can see, to Estoril in Portugal, the team that João Carvalho plays for now, I think. Obviously, he used to play for Forest. He's gone out. There's actually an official. I don't know why I'm not just going on the actual Forest Twitter account, because they tweeted it earlier. Here you go. Brandon Aguilera has joined Estoril for the remainder of the season. 19-year-old Costa Rican made 10 appearances during the first half of the season. He also featured for his nation at the World Cup in Qatar this winter, made 3 appearances. And he's joining Estoril, who currently sit 14th in the Premier League, managed by former Benfica and Vitória manager Nelson Vecimo. Wishing Brandon Aguilera the best for the rest of the season. It's very exciting for him. It's his opportunity to get some minutes in a top European league. A top European league. It's not a top 5 league, but probably in the top 6 leagues in Europe at the moment. For a side that, they're 14th in the league, they could probably do a bit of creativity. I think Aguilera's got really, he looks really high potential. Jamie Martin did a really good interview with a Costa Rican football expert in the summer, talking about Aguilera and what he would bring to Forest when he joins and all that kind of stuff. I don't know what he was called. I can't remember when it was. But if you want to go check that out, Jamie did a fantastic interview, and it gave us a little bit more insight into what Aguilera actually is as a player. I did a scout report on him as well around the same time. By no means was mine anywhere near that quality of introduction on him, but suffice to say, he is a really promising prospect, and I think he is getting to that age now, 19, 20 years old. You want him to be making that move over to a European league, getting into a bit more of a physical competition. And yeah. Hildias off to Germany. Bloody hell. That's a name that I haven't heard in a long time. That's a name I don't want to hear anymore. It was against Norwich, he just absolutely fluffed his lines. We could have picked up a win, and he just couldn't hold on to the ball, and we lost or we drew, sorry. Bloody hell. Hildias. That's one I have not heard in a very long time. Is it Gil Hill? I don't know. I know the Spanish and the Portuguese pronounce those syllables differently, I think. But yes, Aguilera has gone to Portugal. Very exciting for him. Hopefully it's an opportunity for him to get some minutes second half of the season. Like I said, he's 19. You want him to start contributing, hopefully. If he can pick up maybe 500, 600 minutes second half of the season, get another loan out to maybe Portugal or a second-tier Spanish side, maybe a championship side next season. Obviously, dependent on where we end up next season as well. It would hopefully see an opportunity for him to... What am I trying to say? An opportunity for him to get sustainable minutes or substantial minutes and actually get some output going. So, yeah. But nothing else new coming through at the moment. Nothing new being reported. Going on the latest. Just keeping refreshing Twitter. Just keeping hearing things out. Bit more substantial news coming out to do with Jordan Smith. Looks like that deal is certainly more heavily linked to happening. Looks like it's definitely, there's more happening. Nothing new here. Nothing new here. Here we go. This looks interesting. Here's a deal for us to take a look at. Diaz has been storming back in Portugal. He's been good since he went back to Portugal. Albacio Diaz. He's made 12 appearances for in League. He's been in League One this season. Bloody hell, he's been everywhere. Look at this. Bit of Benfica. He's been alright, yeah, he's not been too bad. Couple of goals last season. Few assists the season before that. I mean, he never hit the heights, did he, at Forest? What a weird time that was, because we signed him, Carvalho and Gonçalves pretty much at the same time. And they were all arse. Well, Carvalho wasn't too bad, but Diaz and Gonçalves, I don't even think Gonçalves played. Jesus Christ, that was 5 or 6 years ago now. I'm feeling old. I'm feeling old with stuff like that. Anyway, enough of that. Nottinghamshire Live are reporting that Nottingham Forest, this was 10 minutes ago this was published. Is this an exclusive? Is it not? We will find out. Nottingham Forest ready to launch a 23 million bid as double transfer eyed. Latest Nottingham Forest transfer rumours on Mary Demiral from Atalanta, 24 years old. Forest looking apparently submitting a £23 million bid for the centre-back. I believe he's Turkish. I want to say he's Turkish. I'm going to have to Google that now. He is Turkish, right. Didn't want to get that wrong. Mary Demiral is being quite heavily linked to Nottingham Forest, according to Nottinghamshire Live. Tutto Atalanta are reporting that we are ready to submit a £23 million bid for the 24-year-old defender. Very interesting. Milan are also said to have identified him as a replacement for Milan Skriniar. That's Inter, by the way, who is set to join PSG for free in the summer. Demiral joined from Juventus for £18 million last year. What I do know about Demiral is that he was really highly regarded, and then he suffered an ACL injury, I think, a couple of years ago. We'll take a look at his stats, his injury history over here. So he's valued at 25 million euros. So we're paying pretty much what transfer market value him at. And to be fair, transfer market can be quite modest in some of their valuations. You know, sometimes I'll say maybe an 80 million pound player is worth like 60 million, if you know what I mean. They can be a bit modest in some of their valuations. Yeah, so he missed 19 games 3 seasons ago for a cruciate ligament. It basically ended his season. Did his one of his cruciate ligaments, and I don't want to say it looks like it's hung with him, but you know, he's missed 3 games this season through knee problems. He's missed games through muscular problems. You know, when you suffer a knee injury like that, it can be debilitating. That can end any form of a top prospect career you've got. And as you can see, he's missed substantial minutes. He's only just come back in the last 2 weeks or so to training from knee inflation, which I'm assuming is related to his cruciate ligament injury. But we'll take a look at him anyway. We'll take a look at him on FBref and take a look at his data. It's very hard with data to get a really good understanding on a centre-back. And what I mean is, when you look at, say, a midfielder, you're looking at tackles, interceptions, progressive passes, passes into the final third. Wingers, you're looking at key passes, entries into the final third, shots. Strikers, you're looking at shots, expected goals, all that kind of stuff. Fullbacks, you're looking at ball progression, you're looking at tackles, interceptions. Defenders, defenders should, not a lot of defenders have high defensive numbers, which sounds really stupid, but when you think about it, you don't see Van Dijk or Maguire rushing out and engaging the opposition and tackling the ball back every time. Quite often you see defenders, they're the reserve, they're the last line of defence. So it's very hard to quantify centre-backs. As you can see from Demiral, his defensive numbers are really high. And what that suggests, to me at least, is that he's an aggressive defender. He's an aggressive centre-back. If you look at someone like Christian Romero, for example, at Spurs, he's probably got really high defensive numbers because he's a very aggressive centre-back. Whereas someone like Eric Dyer for Spurs, or William Saliba, or Virgil van Dijk, or Harry Maguire, or maybe not Lissandro Martinez, he's quite aggressive, but they tend to be lower ranking in their tackles and interceptions, which makes it look like they're not good at defending, but they are, because they're not needing to be as aggressive. So you look at things like blocks and clearances and aerial duels, that obviously tells you how good they are in the air and things like that. Defensive stats can be quite misleading for defenders, is what I'm trying to say. And I think that's a really useful point to make. But what this suggests is he's an aggressive defender, just over 4 tackles and interceptions per 90, 1.5 blocks, 3.6 clearances, 3.7 aerial duels, 1 per 90, and obviously has shown that he can attack. He looks like he's probably quite good from set pieces as well. We'll take a look at his data in a little bit more detail. So this is defensive numbers. Obviously, tackles, good. Dribblers tackled. This is good. Really good in terms of the amount of times he's dribble passed. That's a really good stat for defenders because it shows that he's good at, his positioning is good. It shows he's good at not losing the ball or getting dribble passed. Interception is very much the same. Clearances, good. Not the worst, not the best. Blocks, pretty good. Passes blocked, very good. Again, shows that he's an aggressive defender, shows he's looking to step out and to, I don't know, proactively try and prevent attacks rather than be more sort of passive as some centre-backs can be. Hope we don't make any panic signings today. I really hope we don't either. Like, the injuries are bad at the moment, but I really hope we're not just going out and speaking to agents and just saying, who have you got free at the moment? You know, have you got so-and-so free for, 6 months on a loan and they're barely going to play because the player they're coming in for is going to come back into training in 2 weeks? I really agree with you, Dylan, mate. I really agree. I really hope that we make smart signings. I think Demiral could be a smart signing. He's only 24, which is pretty young for a centre-back. But again, looking at his stats in a little bit more detail, passing-wise, he's good at getting the ball forward. Not necessarily the most progressive on the ball. You look at progressive passes, bottom 10% of defenders for progressive passes into the penalty area, that's not really that important, but passes into the final third, again, not that good, especially considering he plays for Atalanta, I think. And Atalanta are a very aggressive side, and I think that's probably why his defensive numbers are really high, is it probably a product of the system he plays in. If you want to know a bit more, I did a video on Remo Freuler back in the summer where I talked about Atalanta in a little bit more detail, and I talked about how they're a very aggressive side at trying to regain possession, or they can be, and that's a big part as to why Freuler had really good defensive numbers, why Christian Romero, when he came to Spurs, his defensive numbers really popped because he was a really aggressive centre-back. And I would imagine Demiral is the same. But generally, his numbers look really good. He's 6'2.5", or 6'2". That's pretty good for a centre-back, about the same sort of height as me, which is funny. He's a big guy at centre-back. He's 24. Again, that's a good age for a centre-back. He's probably got a good amount of time. There's not really any pressure on Atalanta to sell. His contract's still got, 2.5 years? Yeah, 2.5 years left on it. 3.5 years left on it, sorry. 3.5 years left on his contract. He's only on 70,000 euros a week, which is about 60k a week, which is about average, I think, for a Premier League player. I think that's pretty reasonable. I think what we can do, because Inter are the team who we look like we're competing against, and Inter are looking to replace Skriniar. They're not getting any money for Skriniar because he's going on a free to PSG in the summer. So all they're getting is his wages back. What we can offer at Atalanta is probably more money, because we clearly have more money. We clearly have more money than than Inter at the moment. I think I wouldn't say that's a particularly controversial thing to say, and I think we can offer him more wages than Inter can. So I think that's a big pull as to why potentially we'll be looking at him. The source is the Italian outlet Tutto Atalanta, as reported by the Nottingham Post, and that came out, like I say, about 30 minutes ago, 30 minutes ago, that was linked up. So it's quite a fresh link. I don't know if there's been anything new added to it or anything new said. But yeah. Filippo Giraldi, director of football. God, it's erratic, isn't it? Some of the transfers, though. Like, he was at Watford before he was with us. Here you go. Here's another publication suggesting that Forest are looking at a deal for Merih Demiral. But yeah, there's been some interesting signings made by Giraldi, I think, so far. The Brazilian stuff doesn't surprise me when you think about it, because I don't know if he was at Watford at the same time, but obviously they picked up Richarlison, they picked up João Pedro, I want to say his name is, who's a similar sort of age, from Brazil, I think. So maybe he has good links to the Brazilian league. That's just me speculating. That is by no means me saying anything like that. But, so it doesn't surprise me we're looking at the Brazilian market, just seeing that how Watford have used the Brazilian market in the past. But yeah, just some really random and quite erratic signings at times, it looks like. Like Chris Wood was a very not big fit. Like a lot of people, I did the scout report on him about 2 weeks ago, and someone said in the comments of that, square peg round hole. I think that's a really good way of describing it. Not a bad player by any stretch of the imagination. Suits a really specific system. I'm very surprised that Everton didn't look at him, for example, when they were looking at bringing in Sean Dyche. Because, again, he suits that style of football. We don't really play like that. Chris Wood suits a cross-heavy system where it's very direct. And whilst we are direct, we don't really cross. We look to build through the lines quickly. We look to stretch defences by using the pace we have in the forward line. And Chris Wood isn't that player. And whilst we did use Keenan Davis really effectively at that last season, his hold-up play was elite. He was genuinely an elite level back-to-goal striker. And I think Chris Wood can do that, but it's not, it's not his forte. You want him in the box, winning headers. And when you're not really crossing that much, like our most prolific crosser this season's been Nico Williams, and he's hardly getting a minute because we're not playing a 3 at the back anymore. So the system doesn't really suit him. So, I don't know. There's been a pretty scattergun approach to some of the signings thus far, in my opinion. So, Sky Sports suggesting, as Nick said in the comments of the stream about 10 minutes ago, that Shelvey is on his way back up to Newcastle to say his goodbye and to watch the game tonight against what's their name? Southampton. They're playing Southampton. Massive. Look, my brain is massive. This stream has just gone so well. The 5 minutes of dead air at the beginning. Who cares? Who cares? Professional live streamer over here. Everton wouldn't think they're far ahead, by far worst run club in the Premier League. By the biggest mile you can think of, the worst run club in the Premier League. I kind of, because they were talking about on Monday Night Football a few weeks ago. I'm going to take my glasses off as well because I don't need them at the moment. They were talking about Everton's situation, and Jimmy Carragher said, in a very reactionary way, and I understand why he said it, they're the worst run club in the country. They're clearly not the worst run club in the country. Like, Scunthorpe staff, for a few weeks, didn't even know when their next paycheck was coming. But in the Premier League, I absolutely agree with you, Dylan. They are the worst run club by a country mile. And actually, I think ownerships in the Premier League are getting smarter. Brentford, Brighton, really well-run clubs. I think Southampton are trying to run well. They've made some really good Southampton signings. If you get 5 minutes, take a look at the signings that Southampton have made this January. Fantastic. I'm a big fan of a lot of this. Like Kamaldeen Sulemana is a fantastic pickup for 20 mil. Some really good business done by Southampton. They're trying to be smart. You've got Brentford, you've got Brighton. Wolves not being run particularly well at the moment, you could argue. Leicester maybe don't have the money to be run as well as they want to be. So it is very much like you are seeing the worst run clubs in the country are the ones that are struggling the most. Which is obviously not a very controversial statement to make. Brett Sumbler back at Watford. Yeah, he's linking up, isn't he? He's linking up with Keenan Davis. Britt and Keenan linking up. God, Britt Sumbler was like, yeah, I loved him when he was at Forest. He was probably our best player for like 2 or 3 seasons. I mean, he kept us up. Well, not kept us up, but he kept us competitive on his own at times during his time at the club. He's always someone who, when you see him pop up, I always wish him well. Same with Mikel Antonio. Joe Lolly, obviously, he's gone off to Australia. Henry Lansbury, the players who, in what was quite a tumultuous period for the club, they stuck by us. They were consistent. They always did their best. They always tried hard. And, I understand that, sometimes effort isn't enough and you need a bit of quality, but we were gutter for 4 or 5 years. That season under Sabri, I actually did an interview on the radio the other day because I'm an influencer. I'm a YouTuber. I'm an influencer. I did an interview on the radio the other day with Chris Stonage, and because Sabri Lamucci obviously has just been appointed the Cardiff City manager, and when I was sort of preparing what I was going to say for that interview and sort of talking about what Sabri's going to bring to the club and all that kind of stuff, I was like, that's the first time probably since Billy Davis was at the club that I felt like we could get promoted. We had Aitor Karanka, who'd got Middlesbrough promoted. Never thought ever we were going to get promoted. Montagnier came in and he actually had quite a good track record. Never believed that we were going to get promoted under him. There was never a season where I sat there and said, yeah, we could go at this season, until Sabri came in. He was, Sabri was the first manager maybe in my lifetime that I felt like we could get promoted to the Premier League with. Billy Davis is the only one I can think of off the top of my head. And then he started referring to himself in the third person and it got a bit weird. He was a bit weird anyway. But yeah, that's just my thoughts on it. I tweeted that out, by the way, if you want to go check it out. I retweeted that interview I did for the radio. It was last week at some point. It was really fun. Really enjoyed it. Pretty great at Forest, not so at Borough. Yeah, that killed him, that big move to Borough. And it's a shame as well, because I think he was a big physical striker, and I think if he played to his strengths, he could have been a Premier League striker. I think he was really, really good for us. I think we brought him in from Peterborough, who have always seemingly done really well at developing strikers, because that's where Ivan Toney came from before he went to Brentford. And yeah, I thought he was great. Yeah, I wasn't happy until I met Sabri as well. He was special. I'm really happy for Cardiff fans because they've really been through the ringer over the last decade or so. They've had pretty shit ownership. Like, I don't think that's particularly controversial to say. Their ownership's not very good. They've had stints in the Premier League, but they've been playing shit football under Neil Warnock. I'm really happy that they've got someone like Sabri. I think he's great. I genuinely think he's a class act. He got it. He got what the club was about. And that's the first time I've seen a manager really get what the club's about. Even when, like, Stuart Pearce was at the club, there was still that disconnect. It was the first time I've seen a manager in a very long time at Forest really galvanise the fans as well as he did. And it's such a shame that it ended in the way he did, because I think for sort of 3/4 of that season up until lockdown, it felt like we actually could go up. Like there were stages in the season that was that really good Leeds side under Bielsa, that actually quite good West Brom side under Bilic. I think Fulham went up that season in the playoffs, and there were some other really good teams in that side, really good teams in that league that season, and we were up there the entire time. And our numbers were not that good. Like our expected goals were like pretty average that season, and we had made some really smart signings. Sambo was coming in that season. He was fantastic. Carvalho was good. Lolly was good. Graben probably was at the best we'd ever seen him at. And it was the first time I felt we could go up that season. It was really, really exciting. Really exciting. Been watching Sydney highlights and Joe Scott. Yeah, I mean, he's smashing it in Sydney. Innit? I'm so happy. I will always have time for Joe Lolly. He's a good guy. Does a lot of work for charity. Just a nice person. Just like, I've never ever have a bad word said about him. He got sent off though. That was quite funny. He did get sent off for Sydney, because I think I remember. I don't know if this is true or not. If it was like a troll account or not. I think his mum tweeted something like, "Oh, the first time I'm getting to see my son play in like 3 years, and he's suspended for it." Like that was. I had to laugh, but I felt awful for laughing about that. Poor guy, man. I mean, he's a good egg. He's one of the good guys. He does a lot of work for charity. He did when he was in Nottingham, and I think he still does. So yeah, he's a good one. See if anything news come through. I won't lie, I will not be live until 11 PM, by the way. I'll probably be going off at about 4, half 3. Because I'm also pretty certain that, like, I'm sure Dole will be streaming tonight. I'm sure the boys at Forest Fan TV will be streaming tonight as well, who I'm sure that you guys, you know, will probably be wanting to watch instead. They're a little bit more interested than me. What's happened with Navas? Did he not want to join? So it was, from what I understand, it was a paperwork issue on their end. They had to bring someone back off loan to then send him back out on loan, and the deal was going to be a loan deal for him coming to us. And then it became a financial issue as well. I think he's on like over 300k a week at PSG, which for 6 months isn't too bad, but obviously it depends how much of their wages they wanted us to pay. But I think the big one was the fact that the paperwork was an issue, that they had too many players out on loan, or they needed to bring someone back off loan so that they could fill his spot in the squad, essentially, and they couldn't get it done in time. And whilst I've not seen anybody say deals off, definitely not happening, it's pretty much now at the stage where it's like, it's got the classic like Fabrizio, it's complicated. You know, it's Facebook's relationship status been set to complicate it. It's probably not, I'd be surprised if it happened now. That was the one I was looking forward to on deadline day, though. I think he would have been a really class signing. His age may have been an issue, but his numbers have stayed pretty consistent since turning 30. And he's always someone who's overperformed and performed at a really high level. So what are you going to do? It's unfortunate. Nothing new really coming through at the moment. Oh no, that's Fabrizio Romano maybe. Has he tweeted anything? Nope, nothing new yet from him. To be fair, most of it's just Attendance FC talking about that massive crowd that they had against West Ham last night. Look at these. Look at how full it is. Like, look at how many people are in that crowd. Wow. Look at that. Do you not just think that's like the fullest stadium we've ever? Wow. I mean, I wish I was there. Wow. I wish I spent my Monday night there against West Ham. Antonio scored against them as well, which is class. I'm so happy. Yeah, you know what, Dil, mate? I think I can understand where some people are coming from, and I think I can understand why people are like, you know, he's old and, you know, all this stuff. And I think age definitely comes into it with some players, but I think, like, if you took the time to look at his minutes, there's no evidence to suggest he's declined, and he wants to play, and he wanted to come. It looked like he was quite eager to come. So yeah, I think yeah, I get what I really get what you're saying. I think it is a bit weird that, you know, he was potentially going to come in and people are like, oh, you know, he's not going to play over Hendo. He probably would play over Hendo, let's be honest. Like, he is a better goalkeeper, or has been a better goalkeeper historically than Dean Henderson. That's not a debate. Like, he just has. Like, his numbers are better than Henderson's. If he had a good month in the build up to Henderson coming back, he'd probably play the rest of the season. I genuinely wouldn't have been surprised, and I think he would have been really good. He's better than Hennessy. Hennessy is a championship goalkeeper. That's just how it is. And what's the face? Dean Henderson, like, he's been good this season, but I don't think he's been as good as people think he has. Like, his save percentage has not been that good this season. And it's like, if we look at Dean Henderson's stats, we may as well take a second to look at them. He really hasn't been great this season in terms of shot stopping. Like, obviously, good command of the box, good in terms of, you know, he's okay on the ball. He's pretty decent. His penalty record's fantastic. You can't complain with that. But his saving, his shot stopping really hasn't been that good this season. Last season, he was a Sheffield United where he was like team of the season. He was fantastic. Plus 6.2 post-shot expected goals. He was the best in the league, I think, that season. Or maybe third or fourth. 4.1 this season. Like, if you look at it from a what am I trying to say? From a league perspective. So this is the goalkeepers this season. Bear in mind, obviously, Hennessy's played a few games. There we are. 5th from bottom for save percentage. Our goalkeepers have not been good this season. It's an area for improvement. Henderson is a good goalkeeper. He has not been amazing this season. He has been fine. And that is an upgradable position. And if he's injured, it's Hennessy or it's Smith. And they are not Premier League goalkeepers. So I completely agree with you. If you're turning your nose up at a Champions League winning goalkeeper, multiple time Champions League winning goalkeeper, then I don't know what to say. Because our goalkeepers have not been fantastic this season in terms of their shot stopping. Other stuff, you know, there's criticisms you can make about Henderson on the ball, but he's been fine on, you know, he's been okay on the ball. But obviously, post-shot expected goals. Bazunu's really struggled at Southampton. That's fine. Mellier's been okay at Leeds, but not great. Danny Ward has been shocking. And then it's us. 4th from bottom for post-shot expected goals. Like, you know, it is what it is. You know? Thoughts on O'Brien? Don't apologise. That's a good question. So I had it with someone on Twitter the other day where we were talking about Jonjo Shelvey, and they were like, "Oh, he's great. You know, he's going to bring in loads of experience to the team." I was like, "Yeah, that's a fair point. He is going to bring in experience to the team, but I don't get why he's the one who seems to be replacing Lewis O'Brien. I really don't get the Lewis O'Brien situation. I've I've been I'll be his biggest supporter because I think he's class. I think he was one of the best midfielders in the Championship last season. I thought he was really good for us at the beginning of the season. He had a couple of appearances where he came off the bench. I think it was against Fulham and Bournemouth, or in that sort of period of the season where he was really good coming off the bench. And he's barely kicked a ball since. And I get he was ill, and I get his form's not been good, but I would much rather us try and play Lewis O'Brien into form than gamble on 31-year-old Jonjo Shelvey, who's never been good at anything other than passing. His defensive numbers are fine, but he's never been the most well-rounded midfielder in the world. Lewis O'Brien, he's a really good defender. He's a solid defender. He's a good ball progressor, really good ball carrier, really good at getting the ball forward. I understand the system might not suit him, and he probably wants to play on that left-hand side that Scarpa's probably going to play on, or that Mangala's played on for majority of the season. I am shocked that he's not had more minutes than he has. And I've said that on a stream with Forest Fan TV about a week ago, 2 weeks ago. I talked to them about it, and they were asking me the same question. And I will be his biggest defender because I really don't understand why he's not played more. Because I thought he was actually all right when he was playing for us, and his numbers have been very fine this season. This is him, 584 Premier League minutes this season. They're good. Good for blocks, good for clearances, good for tackles, good for dribbles. Passing wise, he's not the best, but we're a side that generally break with ball carrying. Like, if you look at The Athletic did a thing last year where they looked at team style comparisons, and it was talking about like how teams build. Do they build through passing? Do they build through ball carrying? And we were a team that built a lot through ball carrying. We didn't have particularly prolific passers in our team. Gardner's a good passer, but he's not an elite passer. He was really good defensively, and again, a pretty good ball carrier. And although O'Brien's passing has not been good this season, he's been a really good progressive carrier. And that suits us. I thought that suited our style. I think it lined up to bring him in. I thought it made sense, but clearly not. Be disappointed if we sell, if we loan. Yeah, I think it depends who he goes to, because I've seen Sheffield United and West Brom linked. West Brom makes a lot of sense. Corberan's there. That's the guy who got the best out of him last season. Like, it makes sense why you bring him in. Sheffield United would be disappointed after last season and the beef that we had with them last season. The Argentine beef, as you see in that little advert up there. The beef that we had with them last season, I don't want any of our players going there. Like, I get you'd be professional, all that kind of stuff, but like, I don't want them going there. Especially if they're selling, what's his face, Sander Berge, and he's the replacement for Sander Berge. Why are we not signing Sander Berge? Like, he's the guy who's going to Newcastle, who is replacing Jonjo Shelvey, who's coming to us. Why are we not cutting out the middleman and going for Sander Berge? Like, I don't get it. I really don't get it. Some of the transfers that we're making. And Lewis O'Brien is a really good example. But I wish the best for him. Seems like a nice lad. I thought he's performed pretty well when he's had the opportunity to. Hope he does well wherever he ends up. Alan Mafondra and Jack Rodwell. Jack Rodwell was at Sunderland for so long, wasn't he? Sorry, I'm just replying to Nick's comment. He was at Sunderland when they were in like League One, and they just couldn't get anybody to buy his contract out because he is shite. Well, he was shite. He was on like 100k a week because he was coming from Man City. That was hilarious. That was in that Sunderland Till I Die documentary. And pretty much all my family are Sunderland fans. Like, all my family come up from the northeast, so they're all either Sunderland or Newcastle fans. And I remember talking to one of my cousins about it, and he was like, like, these guys are like 100k a week. This is like 5 or 6 years ago as well, when like 100k a week was a lot for a Premier League player. Like, unheard of for someone in the Championship. And it was like incredible. That's suffering. And at least Sunderland are on the way back up now. And I've got a soft spot for them just because my family are Sunderland fans and my family are Newcastle fans. So I have soft spots. Like, my brother's a Newcastle fan, but all the rest of my family are Sunderland fans. So I have soft spots for both of them. So I just hope they do well, I guess. O'Brien heavily linked to Blackburn. That makes sense. Blackburn have been a really good transitional side. I think he'd suit them. I think he'd work well at Sunderland, actually, playing for what is quite a transitional system under what's his name? He was the guy who was a Tony Mowbray, is it? Who's at Sunderland? I think he'd work at Sunderland in their midfield. Yeah, because they were supposed to be getting a Teep Canate, weren't they? But he went to Oxford United instead. And I really hope it as well, because he smashed Derby in the a couple of weeks last week. So that was great. Anyway, we're just keeping things refreshing. We're just keeping things going. We're seeing if there's anything new coming through. Nothing new, nothing new. See, this is my feeling like. Berg's clearly on the way out of Sheffield United. Newcastle are in for him. O'Brien's, you know, one of the players they're looking to replace him with. Let's swap. I'll happily have Sander Berg. I did a video on him about 6 months ago. It was during the transfer window. It was one of the only ones I did where it was not a player we were linked to. It was a player that I really wanted us to sign because I genuinely thought that much of him. He was being played in like a number 10 position for Sheffield United. He's not a number 10. He's like in a midfield 3. He'd be great, like defensive, really solid, really good forward passer. I think he'd be fantastic for us. I think he'd be a really good replacement for O'Brien if O'Brien were to go. And if Sheffield United are interested, let's make the deal happen. Let's just get the checkbook out, boys. See what they want. Bloody hell. The Zaniolo thing's crazy as well. We were linked to Zaniolo for a bit. Looks like he's not going to Bournemouth. My God. Crazy. That whole... Because we were linked to Zaniolo for a little bit. And I was not keen, I would say would be the word. I wouldn't say I was against it because he is a good player very clearly. I just didn't see where like his natural fit for the team would be. And I was also like, he's had like 2 ACL injuries in his career. He's missed like a year of football, over a year of football, like nearly 30, 40 matches, 50 matches through injury. I wouldn't go near a player like that. Not when we've got the injuries we have in the squad at the moment. Again, your hourly reminder. If you are enjoying today's live stream, I would really appreciate you dropping a like on it. I hate doing all that kind of stuff and telling you to subscribe and all that kind of stuff, but apparently it makes a difference, and I really do appreciate the support. And actually on that, because January is coming to an end, January transfer window. Transfer window seemed to be when I come alive, I guess, on the Forest YouTube scene in terms of creating the scout reports. The support's been genuinely fantastic this month. I can't thank you enough. We passed 1,500 subscribers about a week, 2 weeks ago, which is amazing. Genuinely beyond any imagination or belief I would have had in terms of that happening. So yeah, I really, really appreciate you guys showing so much support to the channel and showing so much support to what have been, hopefully, good quality scout reports coming out over January. The Danilo one got like 3,500 views. The Scarpa one's got like 3,000 views. The Chris Wood one's over 2,000 views. I've tried to be a bit more condensed in terms of only reporting players who are actually quite heavily linked to the club. Because in the summer I was doing them and it was like Hour and, you know, a Stupinan, and there's like one source linking us to the player. And I'm like, well, why am I making this video? Because the deal's not happening, and I've just wasted 6 hours writing, recording, and editing this video. So I'm trying to be a bit more condensed on the scout reports and only go for the ones that are heavily linked. And I think the only one I've done so far where the player's not signed is Danjuma. Oh, and Navas. Danjuma and Navas, but the Navas one was basically done and just isn't happening anymore. And the Danjuma one was like, there's 3 Premier League clubs interested in him, and everyone else was really interested in him coming. So, yeah. But again, you know, thank you for your support. That's what the crux of what I was saying. That I really, really appreciate you guys and how much love you've shown to the channel in the last year or so. Because it's been about a year since I started doing the Forest content. I'd had a YouTube channel for a while, had like 100 subs on it, decided to change things up, started doing this stuff last January, the Forest related transfer stuff, and haven't looked back. And we're over 1,500 subscribers, and it's fantastic. It's genuinely blows my mind every day that I actually have people watching my videos. Berg needs to leave Sheffield United are in a transfer embargo and they need money to pay debts. That is wild. I did not know that. I mean, buy him. Just chuck 15 million quid their way. They'll be happy with that. They'll probably not start punching off fans anymore either. Just do it. Just buy him. Why would you not buy him? 2 hours left for Bundesliga and Women's Super League transfer window. That's interesting, actually. So that probably rules out any Bundesliga moves. I don't think we'll enter anyone from the Bundesliga, but Danilo arrival, I wonder if he doesn't see as much playing time, wants to play more, and he wants to be at Forest. I think he'll play quite a lot in the second half of the season. I think Cooper likes him. I think he's maybe a little bit different to the kind of players we have in the midfield at the moment. We also have a lot of injuries. You've got to consider that. Like Gibbs White's out. Yates is out for an indeterminate. I don't know what's up with him, but Yates is out at the moment. So it leaves us a little bit thin on the ground in midfield. So I wouldn't be surprised. And we're playing a very boxed midfield, so we need a lot of central midfielders for that kind of shape. So I think he will get a lot of game time in the second half of the season, because games will be coming thick and fast as well. There'll be midweek games coming up as well. I think he did really well at the bottom of the diamond against Bournemouth when he came on. And I thought against United he was pretty good as well. There were a couple of moments where he turned the ball over deep, transitioned it, and got out of the pitch through central areas really well. There was a chance for the Surridge offside goal came from him. He won the ball back on the edge of the box, did a nice little ball out to Gibbs White, found the space, and we were 3-on-2 against Martinez and I think it was Lindelof who was starting alongside him. He broke the lines really well with that pass, is what I'm saying. So I think I would be very surprised if he didn't play very much, because I think he's been really good so far. Better than I thought, actually, because my mindset was the same as yours when he came in. I was like, well, I don't know how many minutes he's going to get. Might get a loan or something and then play for us next season. But no, he's hit the ground running, and I think he's been really good in the game and a half or so that he's played for us so far. Anything new coming through? Any news from up the pipe? Mainly just people saying that we need this player and that player. Aguilera to Estoril is completed. Shelvey and Felipe set to sign. Brenner and Navas look like their deals are off. Birmingham, Luton and Stoke chasing Steve Cook. That could potentially be a departure. Be a shame to see Cook go. I don't think he's Premier League level anymore, but he was a good head to have around the training ground and was very important for us in that run in last season. The upgrade from Figueiredo to him, he was incredible second half. He was a warrior. And was really important for us during quite a tough run in. And then Cafu and Lyle Taylor potentially going to Reading as well, which is interesting. And Paul Ince at the moment. Andy Carroll got sent off. Apparently he's not been playing very well, so I can see why Lyle Taylor, someone who's proven he can score goals at the Championship, would be potentially linked. Cafu, I'd kind of be sad to see Cafu go, to be honest. He's hardly played this season, and when he has, it's been like coming on late in matches and sort of tidying things up alongside Colback. But I like him. I've got a real soft spot for Cafu, I think he barely played last season as well. Like, I don't even remember how many times he started, but not very much. I think that's really sad that he could potentially be leaving, because I think he's sound. I think he's such a good influence on the team, and the way he was like celebrating everything last season, like he'd been there for like a decade. I just love that so much. Obviously, big match against United tomorrow in the Carabao Cup, League Cup semi-final, second leg, taking a 3-0 deficit to Old Trafford. I'll be listening out for that one. I can see Old Trafford from my house, actually, so I'll be listening out and seeing if I can hear more of Kintyre from my house, because it's surprising. Harry Styles was at Old Trafford about 6 months ago during that really big heat wave, and you could hear everything. We were just sat with our windows open, getting a free concert, basically. It was great. Can't go to the match, unfortunately, but it is what it is. So we've got 5 p.m. cut-off time for the Bundesliga, 7 p.m. for Serie A. So if we are going in for that goalkeeper from Sampdoria, whose name I cannot remember off the top of my head, Emil Aldero, if we are going in for him, and Demiral, we've got until 7 PM realistically, because they'll probably want to get replacements in. So, cut it tight, boys. Get it done. And La Liga in the UK, Liga at 11:59 PM. So, there is still time for the Navas deal to happen. Sergio Rico is also at PSG. He was the other guy that we were looking at. That's their third choice keeper. There's time, you know, we still have 6, 7, 8 hours left to get the deals done. I think it's unlikely that we go in for Navas again, but crazier things have happened on deadline day. Crazier things have happened. This is interesting. Don't know how reputable this guy's source is. Don't know if he's making it up. He could be making it up. And if he's here making it up in the stream, show yourself, name yourself and shame yourself. Exclusive. NFFC have submitted a bid for Roma man Nicolo Zaniolo after Bournemouth pulled out of negotiations. Liked by Forest hierarchy and management staff, one that will go down to the wire. It's not happening. I will eat my hat if it happens. I promise you. I would be so surprised if it went through. I also don't think it's the best sign in the world. Like, his injury record is shocking, and we have so many injured players at the moment. Man United's Eriksen out with ankle injury. That could be a big miss for the Carabao Cup game. Probably means that Scott the Source is going to be starting midfield, or Fred alongside Casemiro. Casemiro's allowed to play. I don't know how long the suspension's for, or if it covers the Carabao Cup. But yeah, that could be a big weakness for them. I think he's the one who's assisted the most goals for United this season. He's got 7 or 8 assists. So it's a big bit of creativity missing. Like, Eriksen's been really, really good for United this season, playing in a deeper role that he's not used to playing. He was playing more similarly to how he was playing for Inter when he was there for that little bit, in like a deeper role. Deal sheets to be submitted by window shut. Yeah, obviously, you know, our window lasts beyond the Serie A window, but you would imagine that they won't want to get someone sold or loaned out unless they have a replacement lined up. That's my thought process on that, or at least what I'm thinking. So, just gonna give the old live stream a retweet quickly. Give me 1 second, peeps. Give me 1 second. There we go. If you fancy going over on Twitter, by the way, showing a bit of love and retweeting the stream, get some more eyes over here, be very much appreciated. But yes, it's very exciting to see if we get any more deals done on deadline day. And in the big ones is getting Felipe over the line. The big one's getting Jonjo Shelvey over the line. And probably a goalkeeper, I'd say. I'd like to see a goalkeeper at least. Just an upgrade on Hennessy, especially if Smith goes out on loan. Because it was Huddersfield who he was going out to. Thank you for the like, Nick. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Yes. So, it's, you know, we'll see how it goes. Anything new on the transfer front for anybody else? Oof. The Enzo Fernandez deal, that's the one that's got me by the cojones. I'm really excited to see this one go through. It's still apparently on the cards, because it broke down a couple of weeks ago and then it was back on last night, and then people saying, oh, it's not going to happen, they're not got enough time. They're saying that it's still on, or Fabrizio saying it's still on, the guru. 120 million quid. That's his release clause lease, 120 million euros. But other than that, there's not really any big news coming through. Conor Gallagher going to stay at Chelsea despite offers from Everton. Everton are going down, aren't they? They have to be going down. I love Sean Dyche, but that squad is shit. Hot garbage. So bad. Can't even get Calvert-Lewin fit. Thank you for the like and the retweet, Nick. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Really appreciate that. Yeah, Everton squad is garbage. I would be so surprised if they stayed up this season. Is that deal 100? It's 120 million euros, so about 105 million quid UK. Because it's release clause, so it'll be in euros, I'd imagine. Either way, I think it would be a British transfer record with inflation and things like that. I think it tops Grealish, who is currently the British transfer record, I believe. So, I mean, fair play to them. He's a really exciting prospect, and I'm excited to see him in the Premier League. Obviously, won the World Cup of Argentina, was one of the best players. I think he was young player of the tournament, playing, from what I understand, a bit deeper than he plays for Benfica. I think Benfica he plays more of like a hybrid 8 role kind of thing, whereas for Argentina he was basically playing as a 6, or what they would call a 4, at the base of the midfield. Which, like, you're signing him and you are getting that sense of like where he can play 2 different positions, so that's quite useful. But Potter will probably be like, which position do we play him in? Like, which one suits our system? But I think Potter will be fine. I think Potter will get the best out of him. Potter's an elite coach, in my opinion. I think he's been shafted at Chelsea so far. But, yeah. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. Bloody hell, it's windy outside. Very, very windy up in the northwest at the moment. So, apologies if you can hear the wind in the background. Apologies if you can hear my chair as well. I need a new chair. Waiting for that YouTube money to come through so I can buy a new chair, because this one is falling to pieces and the gas canister's gone, so it's not going well. Not going well with that one. Not going well with that one. Yeah, we're going to keep going probably more or less until the hour. That'll be about 2 hours. We'll have hit 4. I think people like Dor and Forest Fan TV will be going live tonight, so obviously check them out for your fix of late transfer juicy gossip. I don't know what word I was looking for then. Check them out. They'll be the ones probably going live tonight, I imagine. And if they're not, no pressure, lads. You know, it's all right. I'll carry the flag. I'll do the work. It's fine. Yeah, I wanted to get this out of the way before, actually, because I am going to see that new Steven Spielberg film tonight. So very excited to see that. Because it's one of the ones that's got some good nominations for the awards, and it's like it came out in America I think a couple of months ago, or like a month ago, and I've been like, oh, I really want to go and see it. And I'm really excited to go see it. I love Steven Spielberg and I love the idea of the film, so I'm like, just wanted to go see it. It's finally out, and I'm finally going and seeing it. So we'll see if it's actually any good or not. I kind of want to see if there's any hype. We'll see whether the hype matches the quality of the film. Let's see Russo breaking the women's transfer record. Don't tell my girlfriend that. She'll be very disappointed. My girlfriend's a United fan, or a United women's fan. We're going to see them actually in a couple of weeks against West Ham, I think. We watched them against Villa about a month ago. It was just before Christmas. They were fantastic. United's women's are amazing. They're so good. And Russo's a big part of that. She was great on the day against Villa. So I'll be disappointed to see her go. I guess I'm vicariously a fan of United's women's team through my girlfriend. So don't tell her that. She won't be very happy to hear that. Keep that one on the down low. 400k though, that's big. That's a big deal. Would have signed Zaniolo if I had the option? Probably not. Probably not. I'm like very on the fence, and I don't mean that in the like political sense. I don't mind if it happens. I genuinely am really torn whether I would or not. There's obviously the argument that he's genuinely a very good player. Like if you watch him, I've seen him on BT Sport a few times for Roma. He's really good. He's genuinely very talented, but his injury record's so bad. I don't know if you were here when I was saying earlier. He's had like 2 cruciate ligament injuries in the last like 3 or 4 years. That's awful. Like, I'll get him up on Transfermarkt and we'll actually look at it. His injury record's awful though. I really would be worried about spending the kind of money that Roma want as well. If it was a loan until the end of the season and it was like, you know, we'll have him to the end of the season. Maybe there's an option to buy him there. I don't mind that because I think he's a really good player, and I think if you could maybe find a space for him in the side, but I really worry about that injury record. We'll get into it now. Give me 1 second to load it up. Switches over. It's just loading now. So that's Nicolo Zaniolo's injury record since 2019. So this is over a 4-year period. He has missed, I'm going to have to do the maths off the top of my head, aren't I? 68, 72, 3, 4, 77, 8, 9, 80, 82, 83. He's missed nearly 100 matches in the last 4 years through injury. 90 matches he's missed through injury or illness in the last 4 years. That is obscene. Like, you can't, like, his value is 30 million euros. You can't justify paying that for someone with that injury record and who's never played outside of Roma before, never played outside of Italy. It's such a risk. It's such a risk, and I really hate to say it because he's a really talented player, but it's such a risk. You want to sign the Atlanta? I assume you're on about Mary Demiral, Jack, the guy who's from Atalanta. We were talking. Oh, my battery's gone out on my camera. Well, look at that. I guess we're cutting the live stream a bit short today. I'll just turn those off. I'm still here, by the way. Yes, I know you mean Mary Demiral from Atalanta. Yeah, I would really like to see that. 20 million quid, I think, is the deal. Again, maybe if it was like a loan with an option to buy at the end of the season, a bit like Zaniolo, test his fitness out playing in a bit more of a physically demanding league. Because again, he's had issues with cruciate ligament injuries in the past where you'd maybe want a little bit of insurance of saying, well, if he plays well for 6 months and there's no issues, we'll go for him in the summer. Or there's no obligation for us to go in the summer. But if he comes in and it doesn't work, then we'll see how it goes. Yes, I'm going to have to stay on this screen, I'm afraid, because my camera battery's run out, and otherwise I'll just be looking at a black screen. And as nice as it would be to see that, I don't want to subject you to that, so I'm just going to move that down there so we can see as well. So again, apologies that my camera's died. But yes, Jack, I would also like to see that happen. Navas is back on. Well, let's have a look then. Let's have a look. Let's see if this is actually happening or not. I will believe it when I see it. Maguire. Nothing there. Hope you're not lying to me. That's a joke, by the way. Let's see. Very close, apparently, to Nottingham Forest. So, as Patch has very rightly pointed out, potentially looks like the deal for Navas could be back on. According to Matteo Moretto from Relevo? That's the source. Read into that what you will. Don't know how reputable that could be. But yeah, looks like the Navas deal is back on. Potentially could have sorted the issues that have arisen. But yeah, that sounds really good. And I think that will be a good place for us to leave off this live stream, as I currently have no face cam. No idea if everything else is still working, but I hope it is. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me on today's live stream. We're going to be cutting it here. It's been about an hour and a half. Yeah, again, thank you so much for joining me on today's live stream. I really appreciate you all stopping by. I have muttered on for an hour and a half. My live streams are normally like half an hour, so I can only apologise if this has been torment to sit through. At points in this video, I'm pretty sure there were like 40 of you here. I really appreciate you all stopping by. If you could drop a like on the stream before we check out, I'd really appreciate it. I've really enjoyed having you all here. Really enjoyed talking to you about some big deals on deadline day for Nottingham Forest. Hopefully we'll do some more live streams in the future as well. That's definitely something I would like to see. in the next few weeks or so. Last few comments. Not impressed by the 2 signings so far. Another slow centre back and a slow midfielder. Yeah, yeah, you're very fair. I think it's so. I made that argument on Twitter last night, and the Forest dads came after me and said that very rightly so. They made a very fair point that it's late in the window. The chances of any other centre backs and midfielders being available is difficult. But I think what we've seen clearly is that Sander Berge is available from Sheffield United, who is, in my opinion, a better player than Jonjo Shelvey. I'd have gone in for him. And in terms of centre-back, we were linked to Jonathan Tah earlier in the window, who's a Champions League defender, and Mario Hermoso in the summer, who is, in my opinion, a better player right now, or a more complete player right now, than Felipe. So I think you've got a really fair point there. And the data certainly suggests that they are not the most three-dimensional players in the world, I will say, for being safe reasons. Anyway, thank you very much for joining me. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the rest of the deadline day. If Dor and Forest Fan TV are live, I might pop in, whatever, that kind of stuff. Enjoy the rest of your evenings, and I'll catch you later.